Thank you. So, Akil, get us started. What do you want to talk about today? What's the first topic of discussion?
Sure. So we're going to be talking about how to secure your PC. We have a rundown of a few things that we're going to go through. We're going to cover a few different topics. The first one being how to update your Windows 10 machine. So we're going to go through Windows 10, some of its built-in security features such as Windows Defender. Then we're going to go into Mac OS, as well as Mac OS's built-in security features, how to safely download software, and going into firewalls at the end. And as well, time for questions, comments, anything.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to get started with how to update our Windows 10.
Okay. So before we get into that, let's start at a base level. We'll talk about what an operating system is. When we talk about Microsoft Windows, we're talking about Mac OS, we're talking about an operating system. An operating system basically is what allows the user to talk with the computer. So most people don't know computer language. It's very complicated, ones and zeros and all that. But what allows the user to communicate with a computer, what manages the software as well as the hardware, is the operating system, as shown in the diagram that we have here. So we're going to first be talking about Windows 10. We're talking about Windows 10 because it's the current version of Windows for consumers. There are previous versions that you may have heard about, such as Windows XP, Windows 8, Windows 95, Windows 98, but those are generally considered to be less secure because Windows or Microsoft no longer supports those operating systems and no longer is pushing security updates to keep them protected. So if you want a little timeline just to get an idea, all the way from 1985, the first Windows operating system, until now, Windows 10, which come out in 2015, sorry. This is to get an idea. I'm sure at some point when we've all kind of used an operating system with Windows that falls into this little timeline here. So updating and patching your Windows machine. So you're probably asking yourself, why is it important? Why do we do this? Well, for several reasons. One, to fix any bugs and glitches that tends to happen with most software, operating systems, anything. And one of the ways that we fix that is by updating or patching the machines, the operating systems. It also can improve the operating system functionality, so new features can be added to it, that makes it run smoothly or can allow it to have new capabilities. And updates are how Microsoft facilitates that and allows the customers or consumers to have more features in their operating system. Additionally, they would want to fix security issues, such as, let's say, if there was a critical flaw that allowed hackers to be able to have access to your machine via some kind of flaw. An update or a patch would allow Microsoft to fix that issue to keep Microsoft users or Windows users safe. So we're going to go into how do we check to make sure that we're updated, or how do we update? So let's get into it. So one way that we can do it, in most Windows machines, you want to look in the bottom left corner, you'll see a little Windows icon. By clicking on that, I've highlighted the little settings section. That's what you'll click on. And then from there, it'll take you to the Windows settings. From here, you want to go to the little highlighted square, the update and security, to check for security and updates. And from there, you might see a screen like this that would help you to indicate whether or not you needed a security update. But there are also other ways. But if you click on that, you'll be taken here. See in this screen, it tells you that you're up to date, but it is possible to check for updates. But more or less, this would tell you that an update is not needed, that your computer's up to date, you're probably good. Or you can see this one as well, updates available, and it will show updates that are pending or updates that are available for your Windows machine. Or you might see this. Oftentimes with updates, a restart is required. So you might get a different alert that shows that an update is required.
So 1 second, Akil. So we're
Sure.
having people entering the room slowly but surely that came on board a little after we got started. So I'm going to go ahead and reset. I'm
Okay.
going to act like we're on Clubhouse and reset the room a little bit. So
Okay.
I'm Melissa Daley, founder of Orca Intelligence, and we have Akil George here who's going to be going through, some of the basics for Windows and your Mac setup. We're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. And if you guys have any questions, put them in the chat. We're going to monitor the chat, see if, how we can answer questions. I'll be asking Akil questions as well as he goes through the presentation. And yeah, so we want to make this as interactive so that we're not just giving you information, but we're also identifying that, making sure that we're answering your questions. Again, this is for non-techies. So for those that already know how to do this, you can confirm with us. For those that don't, we're hoping that you're going to be getting a lot out of today's session. So go ahead, continue, Akil.
Sure. So take it from where I left off.
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at other methods in which we can try to check if there are any updates available, or to see if we have to update our Windows machine. So another instance, if you want to get a bit more techie or a bit more specific and probably click a few less windows, would be going to the search bar next to the Windows icon, usually found in the bottom left corner of your screen. So you're going to go into that bar and you're going to type in update. And when you type in update, it will populate the screen with results that have update based off of what you had searched. So you click on the check updates on the top corner. Another way that you can look to check for updates, oftentimes Windows will give you a little icon. Usually I would say it's probably on the bottom right corner. It'll have notice a little rectangle with the cycle symbol and a little dot. That's another indication that your computer needs to update, or that an update is available. Or another icon, as shown in the previous screen, that tells you that you need to update your Windows machine is this. Another little yellow circle with an exclamation point, kind of to show, update me, update me. Another indication that you'll see is if you were to pull up the Windows icon, you would see the power button, normally where you would want to restart or shut down your computer. It will give you a little icon to tell you that an update is needed. And usually this is in cases in which a restart is required to update.
So I feel like, Akil, you went through 3 areas, maybe 4. One is searching your device to determine whether or not your computer needs an update. The other one is checking the various icons that will provide you with some indicator that your computer needs to update. The other one is going to your start menu and seeing that your computer may need an update based off of these orange dots that you show here. Is that correct?
That is
correct. Did I go through all 3? Right? Awesome. Cool.
Yep.
Continue.
So moving on, we're going to get into Windows Defender, which is Windows built-in security features. In the past, and still now as well, there are third-party security software that one can use, but Windows has decided to add in its own security features, built-in security features, to better improve the security right out of the box. So when you get Windows 10 machine, Windows Defender is there to help protect your machine so that it's not as necessary to get any third-party software. So here, if you were to look at Windows Defender, go into Windows Security Settings, you would see different settings for virus threat protection, account protection, firewall network protection, and generally you would look at these check marks to kind of just at the base level check if they're on or not. And that alone should give you, put you in a much better spot had you had these settings disabled, and puts you in a better spot in terms of protection of your information and your computer.
So quick question. I'm going to act like, I don't know the answer to this, so I'm going to ask you a question. Sorry to put you on the spot. But this question is, well, what's the difference between Windows Defender and McAfee?
McAfee. So the difference between Windows Defender and McAfee is a third party, usually focused on antivirus. As opposed to Windows in the past, that would have been the solution that many people would take because Windows did not have that built in. But as of Windows 10, Windows Defender is a built-in security solution That isn't to say that one cannot use, let's say, McAfee or any other security solutions like Norton. From my research, I believe that Windows you are able to tack that onto Windows, and I believe that the Windows Defender settings would allow it so that the third-party security software that you're using takes priority over it. So they will find a way to kind of play together nicely and add an extra layer of security.
Thank you.
Sure. So moving on, we're going to get into Mac OS, or Apple's operating system. And I guess the current Mac OS version is version 11, Big Sur. They've been a bit of a naming. If you want to look it up, there's I might have had a slide on later on, a timeline from different Mac OSs. They've had different kind of themes for cats and mountains, but the current Mac OS version is version 11, which is Big Sur. So the way in which you'd want to check for an update or update your Mac machine would be going to the top left corner where the little Apple icon is, selecting About Mac, and then it should take you to the screen you see to the right of that. It would show you the current version as well as other information about your system. And you would ideally want to go to the software update feature if there was an update available, or if you wanted to update your machine. Updating mix, that there's also ways that you would, let's say, want to stay up to date or make it so that you're automatically receiving updates. We go into the App Store option, and here you see different boxes. So the top one you see is automatically check for updates. You would want to have this checked so that your machine is always looking to see if there are updates, as opposed to having to manually find them. This will probably save you a lot of time, effort, and keep you more secure. Additionally, there are also different features for app updates, data files, other things that you want to make sure you have. Additionally, for other built-in macOS features for security, as I guess Windows has its own built-in security features within Mac, there are different features you can enable. One recommended definitely is looking at the login passwords or required passwords. So here we're looking at a setting that requires a password to be entered so you leave your computer idle, as well as probably setting a timer for that. So ideally, it's not a good security practice to leave your computer unattended without requiring a security password to get logged back in. Should you, let's say you're in a public space or anywhere else, you leave your computer for a bit, it's easy for someone to kind of come in and have access to your computer if you don't require a login if it's idle. And also likewise, another feature you have is disabling automatic login, as well as below that, you see security features for apps. We're going to talk about apps, but ideally, you'd want to have the selection that they're selected in order to make sure that identified developers are where you're getting your apps from. So a few tips and takeaways here. We're check for updates and patches. Always to always make sure you're up to date, making sure that your machine is secure, and another way to protect your information and your PC. And then update your PC when given the option to. Also, a little tip, a little rule of thumb, as I stated before, some updates might require you to restart your computer. So generally speaking, if that is a requirement, you'd want to do that at a time where you're just using your computer as much. So maybe off work hours or another time that you're not, you can set it aside for a little bit.
Okay, so before we move on, are there any questions from the audience about updating your PC, updating your Mac, virus protection, anything like that? Do you guys feel safe on your computers?
Yes. Question. My question is for the update. Hi, my name is Shaniqua.
Hi.
Thank you for this lesson. My question is when you update it, sometimes for the Windows PC, it updates automatic sometimes, and it tells you if you have the option. Are you forced to update it if you don't want it updated? If you have like the logo where is there a problem where something might be wrong, are you forced to update that problem?
Akil, you want to answer that?
Oh, sure. So generally speaking, I think that I believe there's Patch Tuesday. I think oftentimes there are hot patches or one, let's say, that will kind of automatically happen. But generally speaking, oftentimes you will get the icon to kind of tell you that it gives you the option, essentially kind of doing it at your own leisure, because I'm sure Microsoft understands that there are people that, might have using their computer for longer hours, or, they would want the customer, the user, to be able to schedule the timing in which they restart. But I would say if it was an automatic restart, it was probably because of a critical security vulnerability that had to be patched and was probably for the user protection. But oftentimes they do give the user the option to update. And oftentimes, myself included, sometimes we get lazy and they're like, oh, I'll push it back off a little bit.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Anybody else?
I was able to help.
Thank you, Akil. Thank you, Shaniqua. Anyone else have any questions? If you don't want to, unmute, you can always just ask in the chat. All right, go ahead, Akil.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk about downloading software and applications safely. Mostly going to be focusing on desktop apps, possibly we'll do something focusing on mobile apps in the future. But for now, we're speaking, for the sake of this presentation, on desktop applications. So tips for downloading applications and software. So the first tip is generally recommended that you use the official vendor's website for downloads. So an example here being, let's say, Google Chrome, being a web browser. We would want to go to, let's say, the URL here from Google, because we know Google is the company, the developer, the people that make the application, as let's say, opposed to a third-party site. Additionally, we want to go to trusted marketplaces when looking for software. Examples of this are Google and Apple's app stores. Both are considered to be trusted places to download applications. So you're probably asking yourself, why is this important? Well, you always want to ensure that the software, the app that you download, is the official software. There are a lot of hackers, and malicious actors out there that will try to create fake applications in order to gain access to your device or your information. So it's very imperative and important that you ensure that what you're downloading is the intended software and it is from the developer, the official developer or vendor. Yeah. So we're going to look at an example. We all know Spotify, and we're going to pretend as if we're looking to download the application Spotify. So here's an example of the recommended site to download the application. See spotify.com, and this is what you would expect to see. It would prompt you to see whether you want to download it for Mac, Windows, iOS, or Android. This is what one would expect from the vendor site. In contrast, you might have third-party sites, such as here, which if given the choice, we'd want to go with the first one. But notice here, it's not quite it's a third-party site. It's not quite from Spotify. There's a potential that this might not be the software that we're looking for, or potentially it was created by someone else and might look like a legitimate application that we would think it is. So it's always better to go with the official vendor, the official website when looking for applications. So here's an example. Sometimes you will find different fake applications. They might look different, but it's always key to, let's say, remember the logo and look for any things that might appear to be red flags or might appear to look not as legitimate. Another example when looking at fake applications is oftentimes in the application store, they will tell you the developers of said app. So if you look in this diagram here, you'll notice the first one is the official one. But if you notice looking at the other developers listed for these different WhatsApp applications, there's slight differences, like maybe a period here, maybe a colon there. Slight differences, but they make the world of difference when looking for applications and making sure that we're downloading the official software. So a few tips and takeaways. Again, reiterating, use the official site when downloading applications, and also only download from applications from the trusted marketplace. We want to ensure that the applications that we're downloading are legitimate, and that they're not, let's say, fake applications from attackers, to better protect our information. So next topic that we're going to get into.
Before
Sure.
we end the firewalls, let's see if we have any questions. Any questions about apps and applications for folks? Everyone feeling secure and comfortable on their computers? All right, and we have a lot of tech people in here, or awesome. So everyone's getting some, hopefully you guys are getting some valuable out of this. All right, keep going, Akil.
Sure. So we're going to look at an additional way that you can protect your information, and this is via firewalls. The firewall acts as a barrier between your home network and the outside, or the internet, in order to block threats from like viruses and hackers. So initially, it's your first line of defense in your home network. A firewall kind of sits, if you're looking at it, sits between, let's say, your home router and the outside internet. You have to have that protection in order to protect your information, and to assure that there's a lot of stuff, both good and bad on the internet, and to better protect information and your exposure to that, we have a firewall to protect that, which you can set settings to allow what you allow in and out to better protect information. But just even having it enabled will do a load of difference, even if you aren't as technical and don't know the intricate settings of it, so to speak. Here's a little diagram just to better illustrate what I was saying. Your computer sits there, the firewall is that protection. Notice that the internet is there and some traffic is able to go in, but the firewall is there to mitigate and to kind of decide what you allow in and what you allow out. And kind of the hacker there trying to gain access, and the firewall being that protection between you and the hacker. So we're going to look at firewall settings in Windows. If you go to the bottom left icon next to the little Windows icon, and you were into the search bar, you type in firewall, you would see Windows Defender Firewall. Windows Defender has firewall settings. Upon clicking on that, you'll be taken to the screen there for the settings. Again, at a base level, making sure that it's on. So as listed there, the red check marks indicate and show that the firewall is on. That's already a big step in terms of securing for information, just to make sure the firewall is there for that extra layer of security to make sure that your information is safe. So Mac also has firewall settings. If you go into the security and privacy option, there's a little firewall option, and from there, you have the option to check whether it's on or not. But generally speaking, when it comes to security, there are a bit Windows is a bit different. Let's say than Mac, there are a bit of differences in that in terms of I guess it's a bit technical, but in terms of the attack landscape, there's a lot more malware for Windows machines. So there is a bigger, I guess, threat level that comes with a Windows machine, and definitely, I think, a big necessity in Windows. Not to say that you shouldn't necessarily activate it or enable your firewall on Mac, but I think in terms of the larger landscape of attacks and viruses and malware, a lot of them are more written towards Windows machines.
Question.
So,
Sure.
Yes, I have a question. For the firewall, is it possible, let's say if you out in public with your laptop, is it possible, should you have your firewall on or off? Because even if it's on and you're using a third-party server's information, can your information still be tracked?
could you repeat that again? Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Repeat that.
Can you repeat, Shaniqua, please?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was asking for the firewall, like when you're using like the Wi-Fi in public, like if you at a library or something, should your firewall be on or off?
I would say Well, I think firewalls, right? I want to say that might be getting into a different subject. I think with regards to public, at least in my mind, when I think of public security, when going to take a Starbucks or connecting to public Wi-Fi, that gets into VPN, virtual private network territory, in which when you're dealing with outside networks, there is that danger because they're kind of open to other people in the bit of the Wild Wild West, and you're not sure who else you're on a network with. You oftentimes want to have that VPN as actually your security to make sure that you're not necessarily being exposed to certain vulnerabilities or attacks in that setting. So I want to say oftentimes, like when we're talking about firewalls, at least in this respect, it's I guess with regards to home network. Usually these are with regards to your PC or your router at home. Or if you, Melissa, if you have any other input or any other things that I missed, feel free to jump in.
No, I think that's it. I mean, really with the firewall, this is, and specifically for this discussion, this is all about working in your home environment. When you're out, I think that, if you want to have your own VPN set up, we could probably talk about that in another session. Where if you want to be able to tap into your own network through someone else's Wi-Fi, that is always an option as well. So to provide you with added protection. But if you want to keep your firewall on when you're out in the public, sure. If you want to. Hopefully that answers your question. Does it?
No, it's fine. No, it's just a random question. I understand the concept. That's why I was asking. Because when we home, I know, we have it on, but it's kind of like with our laptop, our personal use is still our, personal stuff. So I was like thinking if you out in a library or in public, would that be the same? But thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully that answered your question. You can keep it on if you want to. It just depends on like if the other organization has their firewall up, you may not be able to get to all types of information outside that because they may have their own setup, they may have their own protocols and so on and so forth. So just think about that too, especially at the library. Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else have any questions before we move forward? Thank you, Shaniqua, for bringing that up to our, and asking these questions. I'm hoping we have, everyone's getting a lot out of this. We're going to move on to what's our next topic, Akil?
Next topic is,
okay. So this is where I jump
towards
in,
the
right?
end, but I was going.
So, if you guys have any, questions, comments, or so forth, or need assistance with, your cybersecurity needs, we do have a cybersecurity awareness training for the community that we're offering at no cost. It's basically our way of giving back to make sure that the community is trained on cybersecurity awareness. It is a free service that you just sign up for, and you're able to take our cybersecurity video trainings for your whole family, for your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, whomever, in order to get them more aware of what they can do to prevent any types of malware or scams or attacks and so forth. They are free videos that are offered to from one of our partners that we have partnered with. So if you want to sign up for that, please go to safetycheckplease.com. And we also offer various services around email safety checks, phone number safety checks, website safety checks, and again, our cybersecurity awareness training. What's next? So here, we want to know what you guys want to do next. Go ahead, Akil, you can go ahead and take this over. I do have a mentee poll, so remember for me to mention that.
So sure, we want to do more presentations like this in the future. We like being able to share information, especially to people who want to learn more about technology and security because it's so important. And so some of the ideas that we had regarding mobile devices This is mostly tailored, let's say, with applications we talked about were mostly geared towards desktop. But if possible, if you guys want, we can do something more geared towards mobile devices and mobile security, as well as social media presence in the future, and how to protect yourself online, as well as evaluating information that you put on social media and how to better secure information online.
So I just put a Menti poll in the chat. If anybody wants to talk about what they are looking to get educated upon going further for specifically non-tech. So, there's some opportunities like Akil said here, mobile device, social media. We want to know what you guys want to hear about. So, go to the Menti poll and answer the question about what it is that you guys want to do next. And I will hopefully be able to show that Menti poll. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly, Akil, and then I'll pass it back to you.
Sure.
Okay. So far we have social media, privacy on social media. Cool. We have 2 votes. Anybody else? Nobody else interested? You guys have spent a good couple of minutes with us. 40 minutes to not be as engaged as I would have thought. So social media and privacy on social media sounds good. Securing mobile devices, mobile device security. Okay. Cool. That sounds good. I see more social media. Securing home network. Awesome. So the big thing here is social media, which I think is huge because I feel like, I'm not a big social media fan. So I think that would be great to talk about. There's reasons why social media is I feel like the bane of anybody's existence. So good. So we'll try to shoot for social media as our topic of discussion going forward when we, try to do this again with Blacks in Cybersecurity. Again, please let your grandma, your parents, your whomever is not necessarily technology savvy to join us every couple of months for these workshops. And then Akil, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
Sure. 1 second.
Thank you guys for taking the poll.
Okay. So it seems like most people are more interested in social media presence, which would be a fun topic to go over. So I guess regarding that, good thing I had this slide here was going into that kind of security would fall into the line of this Opsec, which is operational security. It's a process, might be a bit wordy, but I can try to break it down. It's the process of assessing how the sharing information can potentially be used by bad actors against you and finding ways to protect this information. So essentially, let's say we're looking at social media being an example, being aware of the information that we put on social media and how that information can potentially be used by hackers, attackers, or people or bad actors, and be used against you. Some of the examples of that being information that you want to protect or goes to the information you want to protect, such as social security numbers, date of birth, addresses, passwords, anything that's important that can help them to gain access to other things. Ways information is shared, social media being one, phone calls, emails, texts, in-person conversations, Operational sec, I think oftentimes we think of it as just social media, but there's always ways in which bad actors can find ways to act information or get information from you. So I guess the big tagline at the bottom that I wrote in all caps was, be careful what information you share. Be it on social media, when talking to people, phone calls, you always want to make sure that the information that you're giving out isn't critical. And then, yeah, going into some definitions we've gone into. So we talked a lot about today about updating and patching on Windows machines, but if you want to get into the details to know the difference between the two, patches are generally something they're pushed out to fix critical errors or security issues. So let's say there is, a new hack that was discovered that takes advantage of a certain application. And a patch we pushed out quickly to fix that or remedy that security vulnerability to protect users. And updates being things that generally add new features and new functionality to one's machine. So any questions?
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We hope that you got a lot out of it. It sounds like you guys are more advanced than we expected, because usually the less advanced, the more questions. So, but we appreciate you guys attending on your Saturday afternoon. Hopefully you'll be able to enjoy the sunshine wherever you are. If you don't have any other questions, we will end our session. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.